Welcome to the Logistics of Logistics, a podcast dedicated to exploring how things get places and the people who get them there. We'll talk with logistics and supply chain leaders about innovation, industry trends, and the future of the logistics business. Now, here's your host, Joe Lynch.
Hello, friends. Welcome to the Logistics of Logistics. My name is Joe Lynch. Thank you so much for joining us today. Today's topic is the future of logistics with my friend Courtney Muller. How's it going, Courtney?
It's going great today, Joe. How are you?
Excellent, excellent. Well, please introduce yourself and your company and where you're calling from today.
I sure will. So I'm Courtney Muller. I'm the president of Manifest. And Manifest is an event that is focused on the future of logistics technology and how technology is transforming and disrupting the supply chain and how goods are moved around the world. Manifest is owned by a company called Connectiv. We are a private live event studio, and we create events basically focused around technology. Right now we've got 4 events in our portfolio, and Manifest is one of them.
And when is Manifest?
Manifest will be happening next January 30th through February 1st at the Caesars Forum in Las Vegas.
January in Las Vegas. Let's see. Is it cold
Beautiful time.
here? Is
Beautiful
it cold
time.
in the Northeast and the Midwest that time of year? Yeah, from what I remember, it seems like it's cold in January.
It is. And
But
we're
not
outdoors.
Vegas.
We're outdoors a little bit in Vegas in January, so come on down.
Excellent, excellent. So where are you calling from today?
I'm calling from Topsail Beach, North Carolina.
Oh, that sounds very, very nice.
It is.
So, today's topic is the future. Oh, by the way, we should also mention Manifest had its first conference last year, right?
It was this year, actually. It was just a few
this
months
year.
ago, end of January. Yeah, end of January. We were in Las Vegas at the Paris Hotel. It was a terrific event,
Oh, I've
Joe.
stayed at the Paris. That's awesome.
Yeah, it is awesome. You know, my favorite restaurant in Vegas, Mon Ami Gabi, is at the Paris, so I've always got to give that little shout out. But anyway, it was a great event. We had about 1,500 people attend the event. And you know, it was 2 years in the making. I mean, we were originally going to be in June of 21, but we all know what happened. And so we ended up pushing to January of 22. The timing was a little challenged with the Omicron variant, but it was okay. We still had a terrific event. We're sorry you weren't there, and we look forward to having you next year, Joe.
Now, I always ask people at the end of my interviews what conferences you're going to be at. And this last, October, November, December, people started saying Manifest. And I remember writing it down. I was like, I don't know what Manifest is. Because normally you always hear the same ones, like I'll be at this one, whatever ones that are kind of the usual suspects. And then afterwards, I talked to my friend Charlie Dehoney, and he said, oh yeah, it's the best conference I've been to. And I was like, really? I go,
Thank you, Charlie.
Yes, exactly. Thank you, Charlie. But anyway, I said, I'll have to go next year. God, what am I doing? Anyway, today's topic is the future of logistics with my friend Courtney Muller. So this is an easy question. Courtney, what is the future of logistics?
Well, let me get my crystal ball that I've got right over here. Well, actually, Joe, this is why events like Manifest are actually created, because so many people are involved in the future of any industry, and this industry in particular where, oh my gosh, it's never been talked about more than it is now. We thought we had a good topic for a conference prior to the pandemic, and then the world blew up. Everyone is talking about supply chain, and it's just like, oh my goodness, this has become more important than ever. And let me tell you, the future is built by people coming together, smart people, and solving problems together. And there's no better place to do that than at a conference. We spend a lot of time scouring the news, learning about all of the companies that are pioneering into the future. They're either building or piloting or utilizing all the technologies in the space today. And those are the companies that we want to talk to. And when you bring together all those smart companies in one place, they move the conversation forward. So you ask about the future of logistics, we want to help create it by having an event like Manifest.
Excellent, excellent. Well, it is so true. I started my podcast about 4 years ago, and when it started, it was a lot of discussion of freight, over-the-road trucking and freight brokerage is such a big dog in this space.
It is.
And so many people want to talk about can I sell more? And I was very interested in that topic, and I still am. But that was like, everyone was like, I want to sell more, I want to sell more. Well, then all of a sudden you realized one of the big challenges back then, 4 years ago, was differentiating yourself. Everybody was kind of had the same thing. And now it seems as if the doors are blown off that. I mean, now you're seeing everybody invest in things that make them different and better. And a lot of it's technology related.
A lot of it is.
So I know we had 5 themes we wanted to talk about today. So what is that first theme? And I know you'll have speakers around each one of these themes. So
I will. But Joe, I have to throw you for a little loop if you don't mind.
Yeah, please do.
And that is that I want to brag a little bit about the diversity in our speakers so far, because we hear from people, and I'm sure you do too, you go to some conferences and it's a bunch of old white guys, no offense, that are around the table talking, and that we need to have diversity on our stages. We all know that the companies that are the most successful have diversity in their leadership. So I just need to brag a little bit before we go into the themes and say we've actually confirmed almost 100 speakers, even though we've only announced 50. And our content team, Pam and Tanzel, who represent a female and a minority, they're interested in seeing themselves represented on the stage. And as I said, we know that we need diversity on the stage. So I want to quickly say that 41% of our speakers to date are either either female or minority or both. So we're really proud of that, and we're going to continue to represent on our stage only the best, but to make sure that we have diversity represented.
Yeah, I think that's so important in today's, where people are looking for it, for one thing, but I think also, like, a lot of these newer companies, that's just where they're growing up from. You don't have to go out of your way to say, I'm trying to get female leadership in. There's just a lot of it out there now.
There is a lot of it out there, but there needs to be more.
Yep, always. So what is that first theme?
So the first theme really that we're hearing about is sustainability. I know that's not a surprise to you or anyone. I mean, most of the conversations that we're having, it comes up in some way, shape, or form. And if not, the direct topic of the conversation, it's a peripheral topic around the conversation. So due to that, we're actually going to be featuring a sustainability summit on the pre-conference day of Manifest, and that will include 5 sessions. That is going to bleed into the rest of the program. We'll have a couple of other sessions. So we'll have around 6 to 7 sessions really focused purely on sustainability. A couple of the people that we've confirmed so far are JB Hunt's Chief Sustainability Officer, Craig Harper. We're also we've already invited PepsiCo's Director of Fleet Engineering and Sustainability, Adam Butkenbach. Both of these companies are looking to fleet technologies, including EVs and AVs, and a number of other ways to make sure that everything they're doing is eliminating carbon out of the atmosphere and making sure that they're as green as they can possibly be heading into the future. And we were talking to Craig Harper, and he was saying, it's just so hard to get the message out even about all of the things that they're doing and make sure that people are paying attention. And of course, we've got Convoy's Grant Goodall, who is the CEO and CXO and co-founder. And it's awesome if you go to their website, they just put it right out there. They're about reducing costs for shippers, they're about improving the lives of carriers, and they're about eliminating carbon waste. They really seem to have gotten the memo from investors and customers that this is what you need to care about. You need to have sustainability in your DNA as we head into the future.
Yep. And I think when you look at what that means, being more sustainable, it really starts all the way back at product design and how we design our products, the materials we're using, the factories we're using, where it comes from, packaging. I mean, every step of the way. And I think it becomes so many parts of your business that you have to pay attention to. And it takes the whole business being behind it to make it happen. And I say this all the time on my podcast, but I'm going to say it one more time. It doesn't matter if you personally say, well, I think this is overblown, because customers are asking for it. So it doesn't really matter, I always say, I don't think it's a political thing anymore. It's just if your customers are asking, and the consumers are buying that way, so brands and businesses are now saying, this is what we want. And 80% of the greenhouse gases come from the supply chain. So it's just a matter of time before either those brands ask us to do it or dun, 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 the government says to do it.
Exactly. Well, and there are regulations now, that you have to abide by. But you're right. It's this younger generation coming up. It's what they're all about. So we have to pay attention.
Yep. I would say there's, I'm not part of the younger generation by any stretch.
Me neither.
But you're closer to it than I am. But what's interesting is, I think back to the 60s. I tell my kids this is such a joke. They started pushing the ecology a lot. That was what we called it, ecology or environmental. Now we're calling it sustainability. But so things have changed so much even since then. But I remember joking. We saw signs that says, "Please don't litter." Now you're like, who in the world litters? Well, when I go for a walk, I'm going to go for a walk after this. I'm always surprised. Who's throwing litter out of their car over here? But anyway, so can you speak to any? What's the next topic?
So the next topic is connecting the ecosystem. We've got Sean Henry, who's the CEO of Stored. They're all about cloud supply chain, really total visibility across the entire chain and through all of people's facilities. They cover really both fulfillment and freight logistics, so truly a full service 3PL. We've also got American Eagle's Shekhar Natarajan. He's the EVP and Chief Supply Chain Officer, and he'll be talking a lot about collaboration and working with partners to create a seamless shared ecosystem.
Yeah. Actually, I just saw an article about. I just sent him a message on LinkedIn. But
did you?
But I just saw. So American Eagle has bought up a few fulfillment centers, and they're kind of becoming almost like an Amazon competitor. I don't know if they would describe it that way, but super smart. Yep. And what's interesting? Fulfillment and warehousing, obviously more important with e-commerce. That's what we're talking about, connecting the ecosystem. You have companies like Stored, and they're not the only ones, but they are kind of consolidating these warehouses with technology. So the industry is changing. Used to be, I have one warehouse in Indiana, and I can get to 65% of the population in one day. Now you're like, wait, what? What are you talking about? And then for a while it was, we have a place in 2 or 3 locations. Now we want that inventory close to the consumer because people want same day, next day. And every time I say same day, next day, I have to come back to sustainability because we don't necessarily always need that. And I think we're also going to start to see when you say, I want this the same day or the next day, I think the brands are going to gently nudge us on,
do you really need
there's
that?
An environmental cost to that.
Exactly. And I think people are going to change their tune at that point.
Yes. And I did talk to Sean Henry on the podcast. He is a bright young man, brilliant. And Stored, I think, I think they're one of those unicorns that we talk about.
They are a unicorn indeed. They are a unicorn indeed.
That's a $1 billion startup.
Yes, I know. So impressive. Really so impressive.
Yeah. Yeah, so that business, which was so staid and so boring for so long. I mean, what could be more boring than a warehouse 20 years ago? Now look.
I know. They are the coolest things in the world now. Are you kidding me?
Yep.
I totally agree. So
what's the next theme that you're going to talk about at Manifest?
Okay, so the next theme is autonomous and robotics. Obviously, this is coming up a lot as a result of sustainability, really. Both Anheuser-Busch and Pepsi are going to be joined on our stage. Anheuser-Busch's Adriano Negrajo. He is the Global VP of Supply Chain Transformation. And Pepsi's, again, Adam Buttenbach. He's Director of Fleet Engineering and Sustainability. They are both looking to use fleet technologies, including autonomous and robotics. And looking forward to hearing their stories.
So they're using this over the road, or is this in warehouses, or is that both?
Both.
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
Yeah, I know. Every once in a while somebody will say to me, "Oh yeah, autonomous is coming. Probably not in our lifetime, but it's coming." And I'm like,
it's not, autonomous isn't there happening just yet over the road, as we know. It's really the electric vehicles,
right.
I think, that are going to be first. But it is definitely, there's no question it's coming. There's no question it's coming.
I can say this from my interview. The guys over at Kodiak, they already, and they're not the only ones, have over-the-road trucking that have gone over 1 million miles with autonomous. Now, they still have drivers in those cars, but I think when you also speak about autonomous, we're talking about inside of warehouses, you don't want people to have to walk 10 miles a day. So if I can have some robots and autonomous vehicles that make my life a little easier. Well, and by the way, we're struggling to hire people. You're not going to be able to hire people into that job. I always say this, if your son or daughter wanted to go into this business and you said, oh, you're working at some crappy old warehouse? No, that's, go back to school, right?
Yeah.
But if you're in a warehouse.
Not the case anymore.
It is high tech, and they're part of the supply chain and feeling like they're part of the supply chain, using really cool tech, and their life isn't miserable where they're doing a lot of heavy lifting. That's a great job. It's
very different.
Good start.
It's very different. Absolutely.
All right. So we talked about sustainability. That's the first theme. The second one is connecting the ecosystem. And I think what you mean by that is all that warehousing and fulfillment and over the road. And the third, we just talked about autonomous and robotics. What's the next theme that you guys will be talking about?
So we're hearing a lot about AI and machine learning. And another unicorn, actually, on Transfix, Lily Shen, the CEO and president of Transfix, will be talking to us. They are advanced AI-enabled technology. They have data science expertise, and apparently the software is very easy to use. I don't know, Joe.
I did talk to Drew McElroy, who is the founder of Transfix, and what a cool interview. I mean, that just...
I can imagine.
Yeah, and what a great company.
I mean, AI to me is one of the most interesting things in the world. I mean, it's just, it's mind-blowing, really.
I think one of the things that, AI comes up a lot on my podcast, and funny, a year or two ago, it was every once in a while. Every time someone was on before, I'd say, please explain what that does. But now it seems to be everywhere. But I will say, getting used to this idea of AI and ML, it's when you put it to work to see patterns, it sees things differently than we ever would.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Takes in more inputs than my little brain can.
Slightly scary, but obviously we need it.
Yep. So, what's the fifth theme? The fifth theme that you're going to talk about?
So the fifth theme is intelligent infrastructure, and again, it's a topic that keeps coming up. And in fact, we're going to do a pre-day. Half day on intelligent infrastructure. It'll be 4 to 5 sessions, just like we're doing with sustainability. One of our speakers is Jeff DeCoo. He is the CEO of the Autonomy Institute. Joe, I don't know if you're familiar with the Autonomy Institute, but they're working on creating really an ecosystem of government, academia, and private companies that will work together to create this framework, this foundation, if you will, that can power the future of mobility, really electric vehicles, broadband for all, a more resilient power grid, intelligent cities that have improved safety. If you bounce around the Autonomy Institute website, you will be amazed at what's going on and what we're trying to create in terms of infrastructure in this country and really worldwide, but let's focus on the US first. So he'll be talking to us. We've also really excited to have Trevor Paul, who is the Chief Mobility Officer of the state of Michigan. They're building out a corridor to test autonomous solutions, which is really, really cool. And we've also got a company that is helping build the future corridors, Cavnu. Mark De Laverne, who is their VP of Product Development, will be joining us. So that intelligent infrastructure conversation, I think, is really going to be interesting. Looking forward to that.
By the way, I should mention this because I've had a few conversations about it lately, is we have the best rail system in the world here in the United States, and that is privately owned. We just had I just had Ian Jeffries from the American Association of Railroads, and there's companies working on autonomous rail, which, by the way, is a little easier because they own that. And autonomous electric rail is already more sustainable than trucking, much more so. And so it's funny, when I think of the railroad, I think of bygone days. But it is our original internet. Before the internet, before the expressways, we had the railroads, right? And I think, though, we can keep going further, getting back to that infrastructure. If you start to say that the infrastructure is also smart, and maybe it's nothing more than just having the ability to say we're going to get tighter on our mapping. Whatever it is, I love the idea of it, because we can only do as well as the infrastructure we drive over. And
of course.
And I'm in Michigan, so I can say this: we have the weather and the heavy truck traffic that makes our roads probably one of the worst in the country, and it drives us crazy. Smart infrastructure for us would be having roads that didn't have massive holes in it. So I'm curious to talk about the guy who's doing that corridor.
You're asking for the small things.
Yeah, no, but it's interesting that that corridor that your friend is working on. I'd be very interested to know more about that.
I know.
So I'm going to summarize these 5 themes and then get your final thoughts on it. So we talked about these are all things we'll be talking about at Manifest, which is January. What day?
January 30th through February 1st.
In Las Vegas at the Paris.
Las Vegas.
So
no, the Caesars
Forum
this year.
The
Caesars Forum.
Oh, you're moving.
Yes, we are.
Caesars Palace too.
Yes, we are.
Anyway, we talked about sustainability, connecting the ecosystem, autonomous and robotics, artificial intelligence, machine learning, and intelligent infrastructure. And you'll have speakers on each one of these, right? And this is
we will absolutely.
So, final thoughts on your big event coming up in Vegas.
Yeah, so we've talked a lot about the content now. I just want to bring up some of the fun things that will be happening on the expo floor.
It's Vegas.
Which will be a bit larger this year, and not to focus too much on beverages, but why not? So we're going to have a rosé all day area. We're going to have a beer garden. We're going to have a coffee and espresso bar. We're going to have a mocktail bar. Our puppies are back. The puppy lounge is back, Joe.
Oh, I saw this last year right after the event. My friend
Geodis Puppy Lounge. They've bought the sponsorship again, and it was one of the biggest hits at the show. So needless to say, the puppies will
So
be
my
back.
friend Blythe Broomleaf, she posted a picture of her with all these puppies, and I was like, oh my God, what is this? What is going on here?
I know.
And I was like,
I
that's
know.
the event I kept hearing about.
Exactly.
Well, what else is going on?
And then I'm happy to say that we're going to have some events under the stars again. Back to weather in Vegas in January can be quite nice. So we will probably have our opening reception somewhere outdoors, and then our final night. We haven't sourced the talent yet, but I promise you we're working on someone amazing, and it'll be another fantastic concert to close out the show.
Who did you have last year?
We had Ludacris.
Very nice.
We had Ludacris, yeah. And when you're talking about an event for a few thousand people, it's a really nice small concert. So it feels very up close and personal. And let me tell you something, Joe. I was so impressed at the dance moves I saw by people in this industry. I mean, they were partying and dancing.
By the way, I won't be
having the
bringing
best
any
time.
of that.
I bet you will. You'd be surprised.
You don't want to see that.
Yes, I do, actually. So I hope you will join us.
I will be there. Somebody's got to hold up the bar. So
That's true. That's true.
This was excellent. So we talked about this, and we talked about these themes. We talked about your conference. Final thoughts before we wrap this bad boy up.
Final thoughts. I have to say, Joe, I am just so happy to be in this industry at this time when it's taken on such an importance in all of our lives. And I'll say that even my daughter is in this industry. She works for a 3PL. And to kind of end up together with my daughter in an industry that's really so top of mind and important has been a great Mother's Day present for me. And here we are the day after Mother's Day.
Yes, that's right. It is the day after Mother's Day. And it is so true, because this was an industry that really seemed to not, it was like the land that time forgot in some regards. Not that people weren't working hard and having great solutions, but now the VC money and the private equity and the tech, it's just, and to see all of a sudden we went from just a few billion-dollar companies to like 50 unicorns like that. So
like that. So far we have 13 unicorns confirmed for our stage.
And you got what, 7 months to figure it out. So I'm sure you'll have a lot more.
We do. More to come. Absolutely.
Courtney, thank you very much for coming on and talking about your upcoming event. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, Joe, we're looking forward to having you and really, really appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
Excellent. And thank all of you so much for listening. Your support's very much appreciated. Until next time, onward and upward.
You've been listening to the Logistics of Logistics podcast, where we engage in conversation with experts in the logistics field. For more details, visit thelogisticsoflogistics.com or follow Joe Lynch on LinkedIn.